Okay, here we are, and make sure you email our float plan to our parents.
Copy that, and copy the canoe rental guy before he even asked me for it.
Smart move, because out here, anything could happen.
As we go
Into the outdoors.
Life jackets on and secured, safety gear loaded. We're looking pretty good.
Wait, what's that?
Oh, this? It's just my boater safety study guide. I'm taking the online course next week.
That's cool, but do you really need to take a test just to be able to drive a boat?
Absolutely. Not only is it important for a simple canoe fishing trip, but I also need it to legally operate our new powerboat for the summer.
I could do you one better.
What is that?
I hope you don't mind if I bring my physics textbook along. I have a test next week and I really need to ace it.
Okay, as long as you don't tip the canoe over with that thing.
Well, it's all about balance. And my buddy Sir Isaac Newton here knows a thing or two about that.
If you're paddling a boat, you better know something about balance.
Let's try to find the similarities between our two exams.
Right, in between your boater safety lessons and my physics homework, we go study and ace our next exams. And that's what it's all about.
Easy does it. No tipping, remember? It's all about balance, right? Canoeing 101 says, paddle sports may appear simple, but a word of caution. To help prevent a canoe or kayak from flipping, don't attempt to stand and keep the center of gravity low and in the middle of the watercraft. I wonder what Sir Isaac would say about that one.
Well, he actually developed the theory of gravity, but he wasn't in a canoe.
Oh yeah, he was sitting under an apple tree when an apple fell and whacked him in the head.
Actually, that's the popular story, but not completely true. Newton observed the apple falling from a tree one day, and this got him thinking about what actually caused the apple to fall. He later developed the theory of gravity, believing that the Earth has an unseen force that pulls objects down, which prevents the objects from aimlessly floating around. That's gravity.
Speaking of aimlessly floating around, that's pretty much what we're doing now. I would stand up and look around, but I don't want to flip the canoe.
Right. We know gravity pulls on everything the same amount, and it'll pull us right into the water if we're not careful.
That's why we're wearing our life-saving PFDs.
PD, huh?
You know, your personal flotation device, PFDs? That's your life jacket here. Or even the seat cushion is technically a type of PFD called a throwable buoyancy aid.
Oh, so PFDs save lives by combining Newton's gravity theory along with the Archimedes Principle of buoyancy.
Okay, time out. Yes, PFDs are buoyant. That's how they keep you afloat to prevent you from drowning. But who's Archimedes again?
You know, Archimedes, the Greek mathematician and inventor, almost 2,000 years before Newton. Archimedes' principle states that the buoyant force of an object equals the weight of the fluid it displaces. To put it simply, water exerts an upward or buoyant force on our body and makes us feel lighter. That's why it's so easy to lift heavy things in the water. The water adds a buoyant force that effectively makes things lighter.
And that's why wearing and securing your PFD before getting into your boat is the best way to prevent drowning. But do you know how many newtons you need to stay afloat? A newton is a metric measurement of force used to indicate how much buoyancy a PFD has to offer. The higher the number, the more buoyancy provided. See here? This buoyancy aid is labeled as a Model 100, which means it has 100 newtons of buoyancy. Most adults only need about 31 to 53 newtons to keep their heads above water, so a standard life jacket has about 50 to 70 newtons of buoyancy just to be safe. Since we are out in the middle of a lake and we might need to swim a while if we were to capsize, we are wearing level 70 PFDs.
Okay, I think I get it. So the higher the number of newtons a PFD has, the more buoyancy provides, right?
Exactly, which is why you should pick your PFD based on the amount of buoyancy you need and your situation. For example, for someone who is going to be in a remote area where help is not close at hand or the person is wearing heavy clothing, then it is recommended to wear a PFD with a higher level of buoyancy, like a level 150 or a level 275. Most of these higher levels are also designed to turn the user face up in the water in case they are unconscious from an accident. But no matter what, all US Coast Guard approved PFDs have at least 50 newtons of buoyancy.
Okay, so the heavier you are, the more newtons you need to stay buoyant. Wait, that's Archimedes' Principle. Hold on, I know it's in here somewhere. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Oh, right here. Archimedes' principle states that the upward buoyant force that is exerted on the body immersed in a fluid, whether partially or fully submerged, is equal to the weight of the fluid that the body displaces, and acts in upward direction at the center of mass of the displaced fluid. Aha! You know, I've never thought about that in terms of light jackets before. That's so cool.
Your guy Newton was pretty smart, but it seemed like they really should have named the buoyancy metric measurement after Archimedes.
Maybe so. Either way, I'm ready to sink some bait and catch some fish. Oh, let's try over there. Whoa, did you see that fish over there? Let me see here. No way.
I think you had a false alarm, but at least you were being aware of your surroundings. In boating safety, there's a term for that. Situational awareness is defined as having a keen sense of the events and conditions around you, and the ability to apply your awareness of those events to your situation. Really, it's just being aware with what's going on around you. Like that powerboat coming straight at us.
Where?
Oh my gosh, relax. You'd have known that there wasn't a powerboat if you'd had your situational awareness.
Okay, fair. I should be paying equal to more attention to my surroundings.
No kidding, dude. Guess who else had serious situational awareness?
I don't know, tell us.
Sir Isaac Newton. He was so interested in how the gravity affected the movement of the distant planets that he built the first practical reflecting telescope. From this work, Newton concluded that the lens of any reflecting telescope would suffer from the dispersion of light into different color spectrums. To prove the concept, he constructed a telescope using reflective mirrors instead of lenses, which is known today as Newtonian telescope.
All right, Captain Newtonian, use your binoculars and tell me the color of the light on that boat over there.
Well, it's kind of hard to see in the daylight, but I think I see white near the back and red on the side.
Aha, you're looking at port side. Port side lights are red, while starboard side lights are green. And both shine from dead ahead to 112.5 degrees aft on either side of the vessel. Stern lights are white and shine aft and 67.5 degrees forward on each side. That way, when visibility is poor in fog or low light, the side lights and stern create a full circle of light around the boat, and you can tell which direction the boat is moving.
That's a pretty clever way to use light and color. Oh, and did you know that Newton invented the first color wheel? When he was 23, Newton had quarantined himself in his room to avoid the plague that was raging through England at the time. When he held a prism of glass in the path of a beam of sunlight coming into his darkened room, he observed that the white sunlight was split into red, orange, yellow, green, cyan, and blue light. Newton organized his findings in a color wheel, which he evolved to the one we know today, with the three primary colors of red, yellow, and blue, which were separated by the three secondary colors. He also observed that the color is the result of objects interacting with the already colored light spectrum, rather than objects generating their own color. This is known as Newton's theory of color. There you have it. Port red, starboard green. Thanks, Sir Isaac.
All right, now how about some Newtonian science that has a bigger impact on boating safety?
Well, if you're looking for the maximum impact, look no further than Newton's 3 laws of motion. For instance, what are we doing right now?
Well, I'm trying to fish, and you're getting on my nerves.
No, what is the canoe doing because of us?
Well, it's moving in this direction.
Aha, moving. Newton's first law of motion. Sir Isaac presented and published his 3 laws of motion in 1686. Newton's first law is law of inertia. It states that an object at rest remains at rest, and an object in motion remains in motion at a constant speed in a straight line, unless acted upon by an unbalanced force.
Right, but what does that have to do with the canoe?
Our canoe is in relative forward motion, right? Yet it is still affected by the external forces of friction, wind, paddling, wave action, and all sorts of stuff. But what if instead of using manpower to paddle the canoe, we were in a heavy powerboat, throttling across the water at top speed?
Okay, first of all, you should always obey the speed limit when operating a boat.
Okay, it was just for the sake of the example.
Well then, in this canoe, we don't have much inertia, and we can change our speed and direction pretty easily without applying very much unbalanced force. You know, like using our paddles for slowing, stopping, or turning if we need to avoid something.
Right, so if our vessel was bigger and going faster, you'd have a lot more inertia.
Oh, so it would take a lot more time and force to slow down or change direction. Not to mention, boats don't have brakes. So unless you plan on using your paddles to slow you down before crashing into a dock, I'd recommend going at a good speed. Sorry, all this paddling has me starving. It's time for a lunch break.
Yeah, I could eat too.
You know, I gotta give it to you. Newton's first law has a lot to do with boating safety.
Yeah, I'd like to think if powerboats were around when Newton was alive, he'd be a big fan.
So what'd you bring for lunch?
Oh, just some sandwiches and some chips. What'd you bring?
I brought some apples. Hey, can you pass me that water bottle?
Oh, yeah. I was close. Nice catch.
I can't believe I'm asking this, but isn't this another example of one of Newton's laws of motion?
Yes, the student has become the master.
I have to admit, I'm having a lot of fun with all this boating physics stuff.
Well, let me explain it to you before you change your mind. That napkin blowing in the wind was actually part of Newton's law of inertia. Remember, objects that are in rest will remain at rest until acted on by an unbalanced force. But what do you think happens when two objects are at rest, but one begins to accelerate?
Sounds familiar.
Let's say you've got a can of soda sitting on the railing of your stationary boat. Nothing moves, right? But if your boat starts to accelerate, what does the can do?
Well, the can is a separate object, right? So wouldn't it remain at rest?
Right. The can is a separate object from the boat, and the can isn't accelerating, so it wants to remain at rest, but since it's sitting on the boat and the boat moved, it falls backwards into your lap or slides off the railing into the lake.
And that would be littering. So make sure everything in your boat is secured before zooming off so that nothing falls out, including people.
But what about how Newton's first law affects the opposite of acceleration? In Newton's law of inertia, objects resist changes in their relative state of motion. For example, a person in motion sitting in a boat stays in motion with the same speed and same direction as the boat. But if the moving powerboat suddenly encounters a force that changes the boat's state of motion, like running into another vessel or a dock, then the relative state of motion of the people in the boat will continue their forward motion. That's definitely a case of man overboard.
Now you've got it. Anybody can fly forward or be ejected from the boat, including the operator. That's why it's so important to make sure that you have a proper seat and always maintain 3 points of contact.
Now I can see how situational awareness might help the boater be aware of and even avoid the dangerous physics of inertia while coming into contact with an unbalanced force.
Yes, always be aware so that you don't hit something. Collisions and ejections account for too many boating accidents.
And most of them are preventable. Anyway, do you want to go fishing down by the shore over there?
Sounds good to me. Maybe we can try over by those reeds. All right, let's switch it up. I'll give you information on boating safety, and then you have to break it down into physics.
This is the moment I was born for.
Plus, you have to decode the physics and find a way to prevent the accident. Ready?
I was born ready.
Did you know that swamping is the third most common type of boating accident? What would you do to prevent this situation? Any guesses?
I do not know what swamping is.
Why didn't you say so? Swamping is when a vessel fills with water caused by waves coming over the side, especially if the vessel is overloaded.
Aha! Back to buoyancy with our old friend Archimedes. It's simple, really. There's 3 levels of buoyancy: positive, negative, and neutral. Positive buoyancy occurs when the object is less dense than the water it's sitting in. What is a good example of this? Or even a boat. Typically as long as it stays within the maximum weight limit. I suppose if the boat was too heavy, it can become neutrally buoyant or even negatively buoyant, both of which would mean it sinks or swamps.
This is why most boats have a maximum capacity plate to take out the guesswork. This clearly shows the maximum capacity weight and/or number of people that can safely ride the boat. Maximum weight is the combined weight of passengers, gears, and motors.
And when you add all the physics of wave action, I mean the moving boat, the wind, and the unbalanced boat, in the direction of all the opposing forces, it gets pretty complicated. So bottom line, just play it safe. Stay well below the maximum capacities so you can stay afloat.
We might get you certified yet. Now, another common type of boating accident is pretty much the opposite of swamping. Any guesses?
Sounds like the opposite of not enough buoyancy. Too much buoyancy?
Close. Kinda. It's called grounding. And it's the fourth major type of boating accident. It means the boat has entered an area where the water is no longer deep enough to float the vessel and the boat runs into the bottom. Of course, this can be done intentionally, like when we pulled the canoe back on shore. But in a boating accident, it's probably due to misinformation about water depths, operator inattention or error, or an unexpected change in the bottom structure of a waterway, such as a sandbar or rocky shoal.
The only physics application that I can imagine is a sonar depth finder that alerts the operator about the depth of the waters. So it's really up to the operator then for the prevention, right?
Yep, us boaters call it know before you go. It's especially important to do your research before boating in unfamiliar waters. A good sense of situational awareness is the best way to prevent grounding, but talking to locals about any underwater hazards isn't a bad idea either.
Yeah, I guess situational awareness can't really help you if the hazards are underwater.
But it does help when it comes to looking out for other boaters. It's important to be aware and prepared when in a canoe or another vessel at water level because you're harder to spot, even by attentive boaters. Making your craft more visible to other boaters can help you avoid being hit by another boat. A few things you can do are use a brightly colored paddlecraft or accent paint your canoe or kayak with a bright color. Wear a bright colored PFD, hat, and outerwear. Install an elevated bright orange flag or fishing net on a pole or add a light to your vessel. Finally, think like a motorcycle navigating in auto traffic. Assume other operators can't see you and paddle defensively to avoid traffic zones and oncoming boats.
Makes you wonder how boaters don't see a canoe or kayak in the water. I mean, water's flat, and the only thing sticking up from it is things you don't want to hit.
Yeah, it happens too often. See? Check out this video of a kayak angler who got struck by another boat. And he even had a big fishing net sticking up on a long pole.
They didn't even stop to check if he was okay.
I know. Unfortunately, collisions with recreational vessels are the most common type of boating accident.
That's too bad, because we're all out here to enjoy the water. Well, I think people should be more respectful and safe of other vessels.
And with that, you passed my quiz and learned a more practical way to apply physics to boating safety situations.
Dreams really do come true, don't they? And I live in proof. Hey, let's jump in the canoe.
We will absolutely not jump in the canoe.
Never let me have any fun.
Come on.
You see that personal watercraft up there? I mean, it looks like they're zooming pretty close to shore. Wait, but is that safe? Let us consult with our boating study guide.
You know, I'd say with all those docks in the water, maybe they are too close. By far, the greatest number of boating accidents are the result of collisions. And the three major types of collisions are with 1, other vessels, 2, objects, and 3, groundings.
I mean, we've talked about collisions with other vessels and groundings, but we haven't really talked about with other objects.
Well, what does Sir Isaac Newton have to say about it?
Well, if a boat collides with anything, it's because the boat was in motion. And that's why boating collisions are all about Newton's second and third law of motion. Simple physics, right? Newton's second law states that the acceleration of an object is dependent upon 2 variables, the net force acting upon the object and the mass of the object. If the force acting upon an object is increased, the acceleration of the object is increased. And if the mass of an object is increased, the acceleration of the object is decreased. The formula is F equals ma, or net force is equal to mass times acceleration.
Yeah, I'd say that's pretty simple. So if we paddle with faster or longer strokes, the acceleration of the canoe will increase. And the lighter the mass of the canoe, such as one made with fiberglass or Kevlar, or larger paddles that create more power, the faster we'll go. With powerboats, increasing the throttle or engine power increases the propeller revolutions per minute, which increases the forward force and acceleration.
And that's why every boat should have a sign in the back that says net force is equal to mass times acceleration. And that will clear things right up.
Right. You see that guy over there who's operating that boat pulling the water skier? That's the single biggest cause of collisions right there.
What? The water skier?
No, the operator. Of the top 10 known contributing factors to boating accidents, 5 of them directly relate to the operator, the person driving the boat. The number 1 contributing factor is operator inattention. The only way to fix that is for someone to pay more attention. No physics there, it's all mental. But people need to understand the importance of situational awareness, and that's where boating safety and education and certification play a huge role. Now, any guesses on the number 2 leading factor?
Give me a second.
Here's a hint. Why are we going to be taking driver's ed?
Well, because we don't have any driving experience. Being an inexperienced boater is a contributing factor to collisions. That makes sense, and that's why it's kind of smart to get certified. Like passing your driver's ed test.
Bingo! Now, see if you can see what's wrong with that scenario over there.
Yep, I see it. With only one guy operating the boat and mostly looking back at the skier, he can't properly react to where he's going in forward motion and what he might hit. That's why you always keep a lookout with you when pulling something with a powerboat. And not to mention he's going way too fast.
Right and right again. It's always important to have a proper lookout, especially if your attention is divided for some reason. And as always, excessive speed can be deadly. The other operator-related factor to boating accidents is alcohol. Too many boaters choose to operate a boat under the influence and end up getting into boating accidents. Those accidents can be fatal, not only for the operator, but also their passengers.
And those accidents could be with another boat, which is also bad news for those boaters too. Newton's third law explains how bad boating accident is never one-sided. Newton's third law, action and reaction, is all about equal but opposite reactions. This law states, for each action, there will be an opposite and equal reaction. If one body acts upon the second body, then the second body will respond with the first body with an equal amount of force, but in the opposite direction.
I mean, regardless of how it happened or whose fault it was, the physics of a boating accident, the momentum, mass, speed, kinetic energy, angles of impact, all these very real factors come together to mean that it's very bad news for the boats and anybody in them.
And to think these accidents could have been avoided just by following a simple safety rule.
You can look at it the opposite way too, though, right? It's pretty cool that we can stop accidents just by putting our knowledge of boating safety into action.
That's so true. And I do say we did learn a lot of boating physics and safety today. Speaking of which, our canoe doesn't have a light on it and the sun's beginning to set. So why don't you say we head back to shore and call it a day?
Smart thinking. I'll steer us in that direction. Well, I certainly feel ready for my boater safety certification test, and your physics homework really put that all into perspective.
Well, it's a beautiful day and I'm glad to be alive. And I'm happy to say it's all because of being safe on the water, every time.
And I'm sure we'll never look at boating the same way. See you next time we head into the outdoors.
The following organizations have provided funding for this Into the Outdoors television series.